What's up, star people? It is 12:12. Do you know where your Stellar Trilogy book 3 is? So I am sitting in my car because I was at the Black Star Film Festival this evening. The movie that I went to see, How to Be a Douchebag, was supposed to start at 8:50, which would have given me plenty of time to get home or do whatever it is I needed to do to be able to read tonight. But what had happened was there was some sort of power outage or something that had happened in, I guess, this University City area. And so my movie didn't start until 10:15. And so I actually had time to do the reading earlier, but the vibe was wrong. Like, it was outside and there was like people walking by. It was very not cool. So I didn't do it earlier. And then I set my alarm for 11 o'clock so I could leave the movie. But what had happened was the movie was that good. It's called How to Be a Douchebag, and it seems like this, the title just seems like it's, I don't know, but it was really, really good. It was well acted, it was well written, it was funny, it was everything. It was such a brilliant film. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. So needless to say, I kept weighing my options. I was like, but if I leave this movie right now, I'm like, it's gonna be a problem in my soul. I don't know. Hi, who is that sign? I don't know who the actors are. It's an independent film, and it was one of the films that are screening at the Black Star Film Festival. So I don't know who all the players are, and I'm going to do my research so I can be able to say that later, because I want everyone to support this film. It was really, really, it was like really good. And so, so I'm in my car. I had set up a place outside in the universe. What is it? I set up a place where I could record where there was enough light, and by the time I got out, because it's midnight, by the time we got out of the film, and they're in there doing a question and answer, and I'm sitting there booking it so I could try and get here for 12:12. It was like one of those things. It's like, we have established this, we have set this up, we're getting momentum. I don't want to just like stop one day when I've been promoting it. So what was the silver lining in the movie? Have I ever thought about being a narrator? Okay, the silver lining in the movie, there wasn't one. I guess everybody came out of the movie. You have to see it. You have to see it, because I can't even tell you. Like, it was really good, and it wasn't one-sided. It wasn't like the women versus the men kind of thing. It was like, it was a guy who was kind of an asshole, and he knew he was an asshole, and he was a womanizer, and he got caught up in a woman who happened to be a feminist, and it was really well done. Like, no one lost in the end. It's like everyone gained something. And in spiritual literacy, you don't win some and lose some, you win some or you learn some. And so this was one of those movies. It was like, at the end, everybody learned something, they gained something, no one walked away like butthurt. So it's called How to Be a Douchebag. Google it. It is worth the watch. And Joey, have you ever thought about being a narrator? Yes, I actually am. I do voiceovers for my actual living. So there you go. And so now that we're here doing this, this is supposed to be Star People Story Time. It's late. It's supposed to start at 11:11. And so for all my new people, it is not 11:11. I started this at 12:12 because I want to get this read in. Okay, so if you guys weren't here to read a book, a chapter of a book, I'm just preparing you, because we're on chapter 4, and I got fans that have been waiting for this all day. And I was watching a movie. I was watching a movie. And I apologize as the lighting isn't very good in here. But this is live. This is Star People Story Time live from my car in University City. If I go like this, no, the light is not good. And it's hot too. So I have the air on. Whatever. How to Be a Douchebag, you have to go see that movie. And so now we're going to bring it back in. Bring it back in. And we're going to begin the read. And this is a long chapter too. Damn it. Okay, chapter 4. It's called Green. The title quote: he plants trees to benefit another generation. Caecilius Statius wrote that. I will. Bye. Okay. Kai woke up in her bed. Her bed. She could tell it was her bed because when she slept in her bed, she never tussled or squirmed or even moved much from the spot she started. And she always woke up on her back. Even in two-sty, she woke up in different variations of sideways or frontways, but never on her back. There was something about her bed that made it impossible for her to wake up to anything but her ceiling. She wasn't looking at her ceiling, though. She had memorized every crevice of the ceiling of her and Kaitu's apartment over 7 long years. She knew every crack, indent, and watermark. This ceiling had no cracks, indents, or watermarks. It was actually quite boringly flawless. The sun streaming in enhanced the perfect double-vaulted ceiling, while otherworldly crown moldings ornately capped up the majesty of the room with interest. She hadn't bothered to lift her body to see the rest of the room. She knew it wasn't familiar, and she wasn't ready yet to see what change had brought for her this time. She was perfectly content with trying to find any imperfection at all that she could count on in this, her new life, with her perfect husband, family, and fellow Stai in tow. She thought briefly about the others who had willingly and silently taken the journey with them. She wondered how they were faring in their new digs, and if they too had woken up, face up, staring at the ceiling, looking for traces of their old homes and their new ones. She couldn't imagine it. It seemed to her the only thing wrong with the Stai is that they were never crippled with the idea that their imperfections made them a part of something bigger and important, like humans did. Humans could be assholes and justify their assholian behavior by proclaiming, "Alas, I'm only human." The Stai didn't have such things to proclaim. If they made a mistake, they would set out to fix it instantly, and proclaiming a duty to perfection by being divinely Stai. How boring, Kai thought honestly. She stared blankly at the perfectly blank ceiling until she heard a door open in the distance, and then echoes of talking that sounded miles away from where she was or wanted to be. She remembered complaining sulkily and daily about how much she hated her old apartment. It was as dreary and rundown as she felt. She had to recognize, however, that her comfort in all the dreary and rundown came from her intense familiarity of it. She had to also admit that she missed that comfort terribly. She was still pondering the complexity of it all. The complexity of all her many feelings when she heard Laura's voice at the door. She didn't have to look to know that Jasper I was standing next to her. She hadn't said anything, but she knew he was there. She wondered briefly how big the door was to fit his massive self and Lara too, side by side. Enjoying the view? If I know anything about your process, you're trying to count the malignancies in the paint. Did you find any yet? Lara asked, holding in a flimsy giggle. It took a while for Kai to begrudgingly spit out a no. Lara laughed out loud this time. Let me guess. You hired Stai contractors to ready up the building to Stai standards? I can't imagine where you would come by such things when we brought all the Stai that were supposed to be here with us, Kai said. She was sure. Is that so? Lara said teasingly. You certainly have it all figured out then, yes? No. Kai spit out again. Well, good. If you're done sulking, we have a bit of work to do this morning before you're free to lay around and sulk all you want, Lara said. That sounds fun, considering I don't really remember the work we did last night that put me in a coma that I am just now waking up from. The last thing I remember is you telling me to fix it, and then I woke up here. As you can imagine, I'm over the moon with anticipation of what work we have to do now. I'll probably transport myself to Firewall in order to fix it too. Certainly no, Jasperai interjected. He sounded terrified, mostly because he wasn't familiar with the art of human jest called sarcasm. She's teasing, Jasperai, Lara said reassuringly. She's also being a brat. Get up, must stare at ceiling beauty. You've got one more thing to do before I can leave you alone. You do want me to leave you alone for a while, don't you? Kai merely sat up in her bed, trying to ignore the gorgeousness of the room, even though it was still somewhat plain for her taste. Try as she might, she couldn't ignore the sheer size of the room. It was at least 3 of her old bedrooms. It was massive in comparison, but not overwhelming, like she was in a castle or something. All the walls were white, which were also begging for some paint or wallpaper. There was an unusual glass chandelier hanging at the center of the second vaulted ceiling, which she hadn't noticed before, if only because she didn't want to. Everything in the room was white. The sheets, the fluffy comforter that was draped around her waist, the walls, everything. The room was also quite clearly unfinished. Her ornate wooden dresser was standing against the right wall. Some of the other things that she recognized from her old apartment had places on the opposite wall under the massive window that centered the left wall. The floors were black and white checkered marble, which, for whatever reason, made everything in the room appear that much brighter. By the time her eyes got to the large glass French doors where her husband and aunt were standing, she was so overwhelmed she couldn't have spoken if she wanted to. It was a room fit for a royal couple, although she didn't actually feel royal. She felt closer to out of place, but she didn't say anything. She was still wearing her Kosai robes, which was surprising to her because she should have been hot with the piles of fluffy cloud-like blankets she had been sleeping under. Without much fanfare, she slid out of her bed, which seemed much higher from the ground than it used to be. She got her footing with the gorgeous black and white checkerboard floor. It was then that she felt immensely woozy. She would have fallen if the bed hadn't been just there. Lara and Jasperai both rushed to her side. Mahi scanned her body and quickly detailed the prognosis. It appears she needs nourishment. Yes, Kai said flimsily. I'm starving. Well then, we haven't a moment to waste, do we? Lara said, matter of fact. She'll need her strength, but we haven't anything to feed her until her work is done, she said, looking at Jasperai. Perhaps I can give her some energetic sustenance to calm the tides, he said, sounding somewhat poetic for the circumstances. I was counting on it, actually, Lara said. Without further direction, Mahi lifted Kai onto the bed and as gently as he could lay her flat atop the mound of pillowy blankets. Kai was still woozy. To keep the room from spinning, she closed her eyes. She could hear Mahi clasp his hands and then rub them briskly together to generate energy between them. He was preparing to perform the Stai version of Reiki called Sashai on her. She couldn't see what he was doing, but she certainly felt his work in play. He started at her toes, and it felt like the cells at the tops of her feet were moving in the direction of his hands. As he moved forward her ankles, the tingling continued. The further up her leg he moved, the more the cells in her legs felt like pop candy exploding just beneath her skin. The popping continued through her thighs and hips, but was calm in the area of her womb. The exploding inside of her was so pronounced everywhere else in her body, it was actually disconcerting that her belly wasn't exploding too. Because of the nature of the process, she couldn't protest that Jasperai missed a spot, but it was a mental note that continued even as the traveling, energetic popping continued. When Mahi reached the top of her head and her brain felt like it might explode, she felt him step away from her. She lay still for several moments, The room was so quiet a pin could have sounded loud in her ears because her senses were so heightened. She could hear Lara and Jasperai breathing as though they were inside of her. She could hear the popping of her cells, although they were beginning to calm and settle. She felt like she was both changed and changing. She took several long, deep breaths before she opened her eyes. To her surprise, everything in the room had a golden haze around it that was throbbing to the rhythm of her heartbeat. She hadn't sat up yet to be able to tell for sure. She just knew what she would see when she did. When slowly she sat up, the golden, throbbing quality of every object in her new room, the chair in the far corner, the desk it sat under, the walls, the boxes, everything was glowing and everything was pulsing as the blood did its work in her body. She felt ridiculously connected to the seemingly most frivolous of things in her life. She loved them. She really loved them. Each thing had meaning to her, even if she didn't know what she was looking at. By the time her scan of the room fixed itself on her husband and aunt, she was beaming with love for them. I'm driving real fast over here. The two had stepped back to the furthest right wall, waiting for the effects of Jasperai Sashai to integrate. They were both smiling broadly, but Jasperai was smiling so hard he looked like he might cry. "Thank you," Kai said. Jasperai nodded. Lara smiled a little broader, but wasted little time. "If you're feeling much better, I have something to show you," she said. "Of course," Kai said. As she positioned herself out of the tall bed, she looked amazed and awed at all of the golden lights around her, making the daylight glisten like everything was made of gold glitter. She was barely paying attention to Lara, but she was following her nonetheless. Jasperai had filed in next to her, not sure if she would bump into anything because she was so preoccupied with the glittering lights around her. She couldn't bump into anything, even if she wanted to. Kai could see perfectly. She could even see what wasn't directly in front of her, which turned out to be most things because she wasn't looking directly in front of her as she walked. Lara led them down the long hallway from their bedroom to the main living area. The very first thing Kai noticed was her antique green velvet couch. Interesting to her, the couch didn't glow gold. It glowed with so many colors and sparkled with unusual shapes, like its aura had language. Kai marveled at its unspoken magnificence she hadn't noticed before. "Whoa," she said. "Yes," Lara said. "Remember this moment. You are seeing the true essence of things. It will fade after a while, but always remember what you saw today. You'll need it later on your journey." She heard Lara, but she really wasn't listening to her. She knew she was being led out onto the large balcony that was just outside of an extraordinarily large window and glass door hidden in the glass. She knew she had stepped outside and the air was supposed to be chilly, but she felt warm, like she was in Bali, and there were palm trees populating sand-covered beaches. The wind that actually did have a thick, brick-like chill to it felt balmy to her. As the muted sun hit her skin, she too began to glow brighter, and it in turn burned hotter, if only for her. She wanted to take off her robes and kosai so the length of her body could get some of the attention her face, feet, and hands were getting, but Jasperai interrupted by taking her hand and leading her up the metal spiral staircase that would lead them to their intended destination. They were on the nearly endless roof of Lara's building. The roof was bare, save for 3 really large golden glass pyramids and 8 smaller ones. The largest of the large ones was so large 50 people could lay down comfortably in it. The 2 on either side of it were much smaller, but still massive for a rooftop anything. The other glass pyramids were scattered about the roof at random, but Kai suspected their placement was anything but random. Altogether, they were odd choices of rooftop architecture, but they were stunning. Because of her enhanced vision, she could see through to the contents of each pyramid as though she was inside them all at the same time. Interestingly, They all had seating areas of different sorts with beautiful Moroccan-style rugs and pillows splayed about. The smaller pyramids had huge risers of tables with soil in them. "These are greenhouses," Kai said breathlessly. "Yes," Lara said. "What am I supposed to do with them? There aren't any plants, just dirt. Unless I'm mistaken, which I know I'm not. The dirt is the only place in this entire building that has no light coming from it," Kai said. "Yes," Lara said, sounding more like the voice from the red orb than her aunt. Kai frowned and fixed her eyes on the largest of the three big pyramids. It had massive amounts of light energy of every color spiraling out of its center point. It also had glittering objects piled on top of and around each other. "I'm starving," she said, dropping her eyes from overwhelm. "You'll need to heal the soil so you can grow food up here." "I see. You and I both know that this particular soil is dead. My light can bring back the dead, can it?" "Not exactly, but this can," Lara said. She pulled a small, exquisitely ornate, deep purple colored vial from her pocket and then held it up so the sunlight could catch it and make it sparkle like a little purple disco ball. They all could see the multicolor energy pulsing through the dark purple vessel. Kai nodded at Lara, even though she still had no idea what she was supposed to do with it. "Follow me," Lara said. Kai and Jasperai filed in the wide door of the pyramid after Lara. She couldn't tell how the others felt, but the second she stepped through, Kai felt refreshed and empowered to do whatever was required of her. Her heart felt like it wanted to bust out of her chest. She took in all of the glittering objects piled together, thinking them marvelous and weird, only to realize after closer inspection that they were crystals. One of them was long and wide enough to be a bed. Others were of varying sizes and looked like somebody plopped them in a pile because they couldn't think where else they should go. Then she realized the crystals weren't actually piled as much as they were surrounding, almost protecting. The small and yet significant waterfall she had just noticed was there. It was gushing, singing water from an unknown source, which caused her to search the length of the pyramid to figure out where the water was coming from. She was far too distracted that the water was flowing from somewhere she couldn't see to be concerned that the water was singing, and she hadn't noticed, considering she had made no light adjustments to the pipes in Lara's apartment building. "How is this possible?" "The crystals," Lara said. "Where did they come from?" "Home," she said. "Home like Aphrodisia home? But how? We carried nothing with us but ourselves and the clothes on our backs when we walked through that door. How did any of this get here?" "Yes, honey, water singing." "They arrived before we did, in preparation of our arrival. Kai, I promise I will share with you anything pertinent to your purpose. But right now, we have very powerful work to complete for all of our protection." "But I don't understand who could have brought it, if not us. Are there more of us here?" "Yes," Lara said. She looked extraordinarily uncomfortable. "How many?" Kai asked, dimming some. "We are Legion," Lara said as pointedly as she could. "I don't know what that means," Kai said, sounding irritated. "You will, but now, please." Kai knew she was about to get all testy, and Lara didn't look like she was in the mood. So Kai decided she would collect her questions and ask them later because she was really starving. Something in her spirit was screaming that if she didn't do whatever it is Lara and Mahi expected her to do, she wouldn't be able to eat, and the more she asked questions, the less eating she would be doing. Eating anything at all became a priority, and suddenly she was daydreaming about cupcakes. She wondered if whatever Lara was holding in the purple vial was magic and could grow cupcakes. Mahi laughed. "I'm amused because I cannot imagine why one would want to eat or grow a cup into a cake," he said in all seriousness. "Because they're great," Kai said, also in all seriousness. Lara smiled at their cuteness, but she was very clearly anxious. Kai noticed. Mahi didn't seem to. "Okay. You want me to do something with this vessel, and these crystals, and maybe use some of these special water from Tuesday to bring the soil up here to life. I don't honestly know why you couldn't find some living soil to grow stuff in. We have plenty of living soil on this planet. People grow stuff all the time, Kai said. It is regular earth soil. Some of it, I'll presume, came from bags from a hardware store. Some maybe even came from a farm somewhere. I'm fairly certain each pyramid contains a sampling from most regions on this planet. Please don't ask how. There is a reason all of this is set up this way. It's a part of our work, Lara said, finally sounding exasperated. So wait. You've collected soil samples from around the world, and they're all up here in these pyramids, and every single soil sample is dead? Even the ones that has grown something at some point? Dead is a strong word. From a current earth vibration, it is plenty alive. Food will grow in it, and old food will break down to become soil at some point. But we'll say, for ease and grace purposes, that the planet's vibration is changing, and as you can see, the soil has been so degraded, its vibration is so low, it barely has a light signature. It's alive to the perception of people who are vibrating with it. Right now, you are resonating at a powerfully high vibration. It might as well be dead to your sensorium presently. Wow. Does the concept work in reverse? Like, am I invisible to some people right now because I'm vibrating so high? The church is. That's what you did last night. You raised its vibration, and now only high vibrating souls can perceive it. It's hidden in plain sight. That is really cool, Kai said, starting to feel lighter. When we're done, can we walk the streets and see who sees me? I'm not sure you're going to feel like it, but we can try, Lara said, obviously hiding something. Kai was sure now. What do you need me to do here, Lara? Seriously, I have no idea. Kai looked around the pyramid, honestly mystified and confused at the same time. It felt like a puzzle. The funny part was, both Lara and Jasper looked as confused as she did. You don't know, do you? Kai asked, suddenly knowing the answer. Lara looked instantly relieved. No. Her head bobbed slightly toward her chest. It was like all of the knowing and leadership that she carried around on her chest and back like a cape and armor had culminated into the one facet of her journey she couldn't direct anybody about. If Lara could muster up a look of defeat, the look she gave Kai was close. It turned out Kai wasn't the only soul who would be tested during this leg of their journey. They all would. Kai could see that Lara was not comfortable with this idea. At all. Turns out even perfectly enlightened Styi had chinks in their seemingly flawless armor. This made Kai relax some. Instead of feeling so pressured to be perfect for her perfect family, she actually felt inspired to relax into the one place she could relax into, believing she was human. She took a deep breath and looked around the pyramid. Okay, she began with a sigh. My initial reaction when I stepped in here was that it looked like a puzzle. Maybe it is, like the labyrinth at our wedding, Jasper. It is certainly possible, Jasper said, but he wasn't entirely comfortable with that idea either, mostly because he remembered how unsettling the last leg of their labyrinth experience had been. Kai was the one who had figured out how they were going to get out of there, in record time, too. What do you think, Lara? I know all these elements are supposed to work together synchronistically in a way that both connects them to each other and to us. But the system is also designed to bring the building up to a specific vibration that will protect us all from any outside influence that may seek to harm us, she said. There was that agitation again. Lara was afraid about something, or someone. Do you know something you're not telling me? Kai asked. Yes, Lara said, looking around, but not like she was paranoid about something that wasn't there. It was more like she could feel whatever it was caving in on her, and if they didn't figure out this last piece, it would. Tell me, Kai said. Jasper looked awestruck. Secrets. I can't yet. We must get this done first. Then I'll tell you everything, she said. Fine, Kai said with a loud, annoyingly disconcerting sigh. What do we know? This pyramid is the center of everything. It's the nucleus of the whole contraption. If we can call it a contraption, what's the significance of these pyramids, Lara? Pyramids are energy conductors, both inside and outside. Anything within them is accelerated energetically and elevated vibrationally. Anything outside of it is also accelerated and elevated. But when there are 3 or more pyramids, the effect is 100-fold, maybe more. Pyramids as greenhouses not only grow plants quickly, they also raise the vibrational foundation of the plants, who in turn create a vibrational footprint that the pyramid can use to connect the others, both inside and outside. It's an ecosystem of sorts, Lara said. Okay. So the pyramids fuel the plants, who then fuel the pyramids to do whatever they're here to do. We had a motorcycle brigade. Let's do that again. So the pyramids fuel the plants, who then fuel the pyramids to do whatever they're here to do, which is to protect the vibrational sanctity of the building, Kai said, sounding scholarly. She had heard the words coming out of her mouth, but she didn't actually know what they meant. And yet, she was translating for Lara to herself. She was being helped somehow. Yes, Lara said, exasperated. She was looking at Kai like she had morphed into one of her colleagues. What's in the purple vial? A sample of the soil from the sacred garden of the church, she said. Why is there no bed of soil in that pyramid? Kai said, looking around. The water is here. Oh, why is there no bed of soil in this pyramid? Kai said, looking around. The water is here. How is this water here again? This isn't the water from your other building. Is it attached to anything? No. I honestly don't know why this setup is the way it is. I also don't know how the water is here. Orimpa said it was impossible, and yet here it is. It's self-sourcing. That means it just spins around itself, which can't be helpful. The tune it's singing is lovely, though, Kai said, rolling her eyes. Okay. We have a vial of sacred soil, a magical waterfall, a pyramid crystal garden greenhouse with water but no soil, and other pyramid greenhouses with soil but no singing water. I don't know how things grow in Two-Sty besides effortlessly, but here on Earth, these elements need to come together to make sense. I'm no master gardener, but I do know that all a plant truly needs to grow is soil, water, and sunlight. The soil really is optional in some circumstances. Is it possible that we're really just overthinking this? What are we growing anyway? Do we have any seeds? Lara and Jasperai looked sheepish. In all of their highfalutin sty awesomeness, neither of them had spent any amount of time in their home world growing the food they ate. Some master food growing artisan did that. They had always enjoyed the fruits of somebody else's labor, which sounded ridiculous. But Kai hadn't spent that much time in Two-Sty to fully vet out if they had a class system of some sort, as in invisible people who did all the hard labor and an elite class who enjoyed the fruits of that labor. She had only really seen what she was purposefully shown. Lara had spent so much time having her 4 advanced degrees, she may have intellectually grasped the concept of growing food, but practically, she was trying to quantum physics-ize the process like everything magical about her was going to circumvent the simplicity of it all. There was no amount of light through hands that would fix this. The entire rooftop that she inferred was some save-the-planet contraption was actually just a fancy schmancy style version of a regular rooftop container garden. It might do extra stuff like raise the vibrational quality of the building and the plants and whatever else, but the principles were the same as regular plain old urban farming. Smart people can be so dumb, Kai said, just barely under her breath. Mahi frowned. Lara didn't utter a word. Everybody calm down, especially me. If my quantum calculations are correct, Kai began. Lara and Mahi leaned in as though she were about to share some ancient earth secret with them. We're going to need some seeds, plant them in the soil, water them with this here water, and hope they grow. Kai said without a flourished ending. Lara looked like she wanted to guffaw. She was sure there was more to it than that. They would have to hold hands or face the sun in a specific way. Kai would touch the crystals, and the whole pyramid would glow with light that would cause the soil to do something fancy, and green sprouts would pop up. Kai didn't need to hear Lara's thoughts to know what she was thinking. It was playing out all over her face. How did you eat before? Or drink? I know you didn't eat or drink ghastly human stuff. Lara's face shifted from guffaw to embarrassment. She barely uttered the words. Sunbin. Ha! So Sunbin wasn't just my covert spy nanny, she was yours too, Kai said with a laugh. I tell you, you guys never cease to amaze me. That also explains why you're so up in arms about this whole thing. You're starving too. Kai let the deep belly laugh she was holding and burst out in such a way that it shook the glittery gold pyramid they were in. Exactly like her mother. Once she settled in some, she rubbed her temples while looking around. Ugh. If we're growing a stye garden, we're going to need stye seeds. Where would a perfect stye farmer from Two Stye hide exceptionally high vibrational seeds? She looked around the pyramid but didn't see anything but boulder-sized crystals. She looked around the pyramid but didn't see anything but boulder-sized crystals glittering to the dancing sunlight. She looked behind the crystals and still didn't see anything that could be misconstrued as seeds. But she did notice an ornately carved glass-like container that looked conspicuously like a fancy watering can. Well, well, well. What do we have here? Kai walked over to the container, picked it up gingerly, and studied it, noticing that the ornate carvings were all sacred geometry. Hi, Cedric. Well, damn. The workpersonship on this piece is spectacular. Truly masterful. Yes, lovely, Lara said, anxious. And yet it's utterly useless if it can't be planted to grow food. Kai looked at Lara strangely. There was something going on in her that she couldn't quite place. Lara was usually quite even about everything. This was the first time Kai could tell her aunt was becoming undone. It could be hunger, but it also could be something else. She couldn't place what else it could be, so she focused her attention back to the glass container. No, Auntie, I don't suppose we're supposed to plant it, but I will suppose we're supposed to use it to water whatever we plant. Would you be a dear and fill this gorgeous thing with some of that singing water, please? Kai said, handing Lara the container. Lara hesitated for a moment and then took the container with the teeniest touch of a snatch. As Lara was fidgeting with the water can under the waterfall, Kai was looking around trying to see what was obvious about the pyramid she was in versus what she could see about the others. Wait, maybe the seeds are with the pyramids that have the soil. Maybe this big one is just the irrigation portion of this puzzle, Kai said. Let's see what's in the other ones. Bring the water, will you? She said, having already stepped out of the glass door and was moving in the direction of the next closest pyramid. She had already spied a small ornate glass box with several ornate fabric sacks piled into it just underneath several large half-moon-shaped troughs that fanned out bleacher style. The farmers have it, Kai said with a laugh. It was just too easy. She was actually enjoying not being the stupidest one of her entourage for the first time since meeting her perfect family. She breathed in the experience, certain it would probably be the last time being a simple human would give her an opportunity to gloat. If the entire earth was about to up-level, obviously, she would have to too. She had time. After she was done her inward reveling, she noticed that each of the troughs were a different color and that the fabric bags matched the colors of the troughs. Aha! Since we're keeping it simple, let's assume each bag will coincide with each matching trough. Let's also assume those are the seeds in the box. But we won't know until we know. Mahi, my love, let's test my theory and see what's in these bags. We'll start with the purple one. Mahi pulled out the top purple bag and opened it. Kai could instantly see the kaleidoscope of light pouring from the top of the bag. Bingo, she said. Bingo, Jasperai retorted. I thought you said they were seeds. They are. Please tell me that is not another human English saying masquerading as a word. He sounded beside himself. It is, just not for seeds. Seeds are seeds here. They're not messengers of divine intention from the universe beyond, Kai said with a laugh, referring to the word Saelo, which in Sai is a metaphor for interplanetary missionaries. She was giggling at that last part, but Mahi wasn't amused. He was not the slightest bit coy about how he felt about the human language of English and their slang terms. Without saying much else, he handed Kai the bag with the slightest hint of gruff for emphasis. She wanted to grab the bag with a sense of purpose, but the light pouring out of the top of the bag gave her pause. Maybe it wasn't just as easy as planting the seeds, watering them, and hoping they grow in these fancy greenhouses. Maybe there was more to it. But she hadn't seen any manuals around, so the best she could do under the circumstance was trust her instincts. Maybe. Saeed, seeds, and earth soil. What a concept. What if the soil killed the seeds? And how long would it take for them to grow anyway? Kai's stomach was grumbling, and it hadn't even dawned on her that in Earth time, plants grow slowly. It takes weeks to get a sprout and months to harvest a plant worth eating. And if they were hungry, and she specifically needed to eat pronto, how would planting a seed in this moment help quell her hunger in any fashion before months from now? It was with this sense of what the fuck that she finally took the bag from her husband and gingerly dumped the contents of the bag in her hand. It slid out easily enough. Turns out the bag wasn't filled with seeds. It was stuffed with one giant seed. It made her hand jolt and tingle as it lay there in her palm, but not enough that she wanted to drop it. All of its many colors splayed out from the top of its pointed end in such a way that it formed a multicolored cloud over her hand. One seed? What am I supposed to do with this? Kai looked at the thing for a long while, mystified. Should I bother to ask if either of you have ever seen this specimen before, or if you know exactly what kind of plant it's linked to? Both Lara and Jasper shrugged. They were as mystified as she was. Alrighty then. Let's just trust the process and plant the thing and see how it goes, she said, as her stomach grumbled loud enough for the acoustics in the pyramid to make it sound like some sort of an animal growl. My sentiments exactly, Lara said. I trust you, Mahi said, with a beaming smile. I hope nothing blows up, Kai said. Get ready with the water, Auntie. Kai handed the seed back to Jasper, who held it with both hands exactly like it was a bomb. She then purposefully cleared a hole in the center of the purple trowel, which also happened to be at the top of the relatively high plant bleacher set up. She took the seed from Mahi and carefully placed the seed in the hole and covered it with soil. Lara was on her job quickly with the singing water, which was an eerie thing to hear as it poured from his container onto the seed. The singing continued still as the water sunk into the soil until finally it stopped. The three sat and waited for a few good minutes to see if anything would happen. Nothing did. Lara started to panic. Are we sure we did it correctly? I don't know, Lara. Honestly, gardening is my specialty to start, and so we'll assume Stai gardening is even less so. Stai are about working in concert and unity. Maybe they must all be planted before any of them may grow, Mahi said, his voice of reason music to Kai's ears. Brilliant! Of course! Now you know why I married you, Kai said, giving him a big kiss on the lips. He looked hurt. You married me for my ability to reason with my voice? Kai laughed. Of course not. It's a human thing. You wouldn't understand. But I'll try to explain to you later after we finish what we're up to here, okay? Certainly, he said, looking more confused. They made haste in opening the second, third, fourth, and fifth bags of the seeds, planting them in their appropriate trowel and watering them. Once this was done, they waited again for something to happen, but nothing did. So they teetered around to the rest of the pyramids and unpacked every single box that was in every single pyramid and planted and watered every single seed in every single trowel. Once they had done this, and the very last seed in the very last trowel was planted and watered, they sat for many minutes waiting for anything at all to happen. Nothing did. Kai wanted to cry. In fact, Lara and Jasper wanted to cry too. As a last-ditch effort, they all went back to the big center pyramid and looked around to see if anything had changed. Nothing had. It was just then that Kai thought of something. The vessel. What's it for? Do you know? I don't, Lara said, defeated. Well, you collected it for a reason. Who told you to do that? Nobody. It was just something I knew to do. It was one of my instructions. From who, though? The seat of light? The universe? God? There is no who, Kai. The presence of God just is. Nearer than your breath and closer than your hands and feet. You know this. When you learn to follow and trust the instructions that are encoded in your DNA, you don't ask who or why. You just do. You just know. You should know. You've been doing it. That's how you healed the water in the church. We each have our instructions. Opa gave me the vessel before we left and told me I would know what to do with it when the time came. When the time came, I followed my instructions and you followed yours. How do you walk the planet like that without a plan? Especially this planet. How do you even know where your instructions are coming from? Kai said. She was both pissed and bewildered. You already know the answer to that question. You already know the answers to every question you could ask, Lara said. She sounded so tired. Kai looked around the pyramid again, thinking. Her eyes fixed themselves on the singing waterfall that had no source she could see, and yet it was there. Water so pure, clean, and sparkling, it looked like liquid diamonds. She remembered the first time she saw a waterfall like that. It was in the Eden, her yai. Tanzan, Mayosh, and Yaman had led her there. When she first walked up on the waterfall, she had no idea what was behind it. The water covered up everything. It acted like a curtain. It was hiding something glorious behind its gorgeous diamond facade. Kai stuck her hand into the waterfall to feel if there was something behind it. Lara and Jasperai perked up again for a split second, until Kai sighed loudly. There was nothing back there, not even a wall her hand could touch. She let her hand reach as far back as she could, and still nothing. A wide open space. She pulled her hand out, and not miraculously, not an inch of her arm or hand was wet. She had done this before. She remembered now. She began thinking again. She hadn't known what she'd done at Lara's building with the water, there or at the church. She just went with the flow. She didn't know how she had done any of it. There was no skill behind it. She just closed her eyes and did whatever came next. She wasn't even sure if she was doing it, whatever it was. She just knew that when she opened her eyes, something had changed. Nobody had told her what to do either. She just did it. It sounded reckless. Who does that? Who trusts themselves that much? Especially knowing what stock she comes from. Her parents literally represent chosen good and chosen evil. Kai looked down at the purple glass vessel in Lara's hands. As small as it was, it looked heavy. It knew where it belonged, but Kai didn't know. Are you sure this has something to do with this garden? I did, Lara said, but I'm vibrating much lower now. Kai nodded. If only because she knew the feeling. It wasn't so much about being hungry. It was about not being able to trust what you think you know. To be out of your element and your comfort zone, no matter how evolved you think you are. It's draining. Kai was starting to get the impression that her humanness would be an asset, like it was in the labyrinth. And maybe her Stai family were now going to learn the plight of how humanity got to where they are presently. It was just a theory, but it was one she would keep in the back of her head for future reference. No worries, Lara. May I see it? Kai said in almost a whisper. Lara silently handed her the vessel, which made her do a loud sigh of relief, like the weight of the entire universe had been lifted from her hands and passed along. She nodded at Kai gently and then sat with her legs crossed and her eyes closed in an attempt to raise her vibration. Mahi looked at Kai, and she could tell he was tired too. He wanted to help her figure out what to do with the vessel, but they both knew there was something inside of her that she had to unlock. He wasn't a part of these instructions. Not the way he was vibrating presently, anyway. His silence was the giveaway. He said nothing. Not even in his head. He nodded, then sat in line with Lara with his legs crossed. He put his hands in a prayer mudra and his eyes closed. They all needed a reboot, but Kai specifically needed to figure out what the purple vial was supposed to do or represent to the bigger picture. She stood between them, facing the waterfall, while she let the vessel sparkle in her hands against the sunlight. She rolled it around in her palms to get the feel of it. She asked silently, "What will you have me do?" Then she waited. It didn't answer. She hadn't expected that it would, but she had hoped. It was then that she felt the strange pulling in her spirit. She kept hearing her husband's words in her head, but he wasn't speaking them to her. They were just there in picture form, dangling around in her head like Christmas ornaments hanging from an invisible tree. Stai are about working in concert and unity. Maybe they all must be planted before any of them may grow. Maybe they must all be planted. Does that mean even the planters? It was worth a try. Every other thing she wanted to do while on her journey, she had to sit and meditate about what she wanted to happen. Maybe the lessons she learned in Tustai now applied on Earth. So she sat center of her husband and aunt, facing them, while also creating a point to their three-body triangle. She placed the purple vessel in the center of their trine. She didn't know why she did this, but it made sense for her to do. And when she did, without warning, her mind fizzled in and out in that familiar dream state static. When her mind finally settled, she was no longer sitting in a glass pyramid with her aunt and husband, but inside the golden temple, staring at the Maha Meru. Woo! That was chapter 4, yo. Wow. I forgot. See, normally what happens is that, but we do this at 11:11 under normal circumstances. So normally what happens is I'll have some time during the day, a few minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just to read over. Yeah, thank you. So I have a few minutes just to kind of look over the chapters so that I flow with it. Like I really, I'm familiar with the material, and I wrote this book last year, so that chapter I didn't get a chance because I've been running around all day. Today has been a very busy day. So we did it. We did chapter 4. Yay. So do you have any questions? Those of you who are new to the Stellar Trilogy, book 3, like this is, what day is this? This is the 5th day, something like that. Anyway, so we've read other chapters, and so there are other videos of Star People Story of Time. So if you want to catch up, you're welcome to go find those videos. They're on my page. They're also on the Stellar Trilogy page, which is not nearly as cluttered with other articles as this is, because that page is just dedicated to the Stellar Trilogy. So if you want to watch the other videos and catch up, prologue, there's a video with chapters 1 and 2. Yesterday we did chapter 3, and this is chapter 4, and we're going to do chapter 5 tomorrow, and we're going to do it on time tomorrow because I don't have something that I need to do tomorrow. So it'll be at 11:11 tomorrow if you're interested. If you have questions, now would be the time. But if you haven't been, like, it might be confusing maybe if you're not used to the story so far, like you don't know who all the people are. Thank you, Cedric, and thank you, Sign. If you don't know who all the people are, and it just the best thing to do, because it's the best thing to do is to go back if you're interested and watch the other videos and get caught up with the chapter, or you can, get the book. You can do that too. So, I'm stalling now, so to find out if you have any questions, about this story. And I saw a sign that you said, water singing. So this is something I can actually address. The Chusai people the Stai, the people of two sides, the Stai, their food and their water is pure. No, it's not in an audio yet. Not yet. But it's going to happen at some point. It's going to happen. Probably this fall we're going to record them. So, yes, their water is so pure that it stings. And so the whole concept that's going on right now is that Kai and her family, like the Stai, the star people, are on this planet right now to up-level the vibration because there's an evolution that's about to take place, and they're calling it the transition. And so this is like the steps that they're taking to do that. And Kai is a huge part of it, but I can't give all of it away because, you know, that's no fun. So the best thing that you can do is catch up with book 1 and book 2 and then you know all about that. Book 3 is kind of like this is where Kai really has to figure out herself. Like this is the crossroads that we all come to. Why are you making that face? This is the crossroads that we all come to, you know, in life, where we know that we're here for something. We know we've got to do that something, and we have all the support we can possibly need to do that thing, but we're still fucking it up. You know what I'm saying? We're still going left when we know we need to go right, or going right when we know we need to go left. And we're doing it on purpose. We're self-sabotaging. So that's why this book is powerful. And it's funny because it seems like Kai is always has an attitude about all the things that she's being asked to do, and she's not even recognizing that, because she really just wants to be normal. She's not into this at all. She's like, fuck all, you know, really, she's just like, fuck all of this. I just want to be a normal person. Can I live? Can I just have a normal? And there's nothing about her life that's normal. There's nothing about her family that's normal. There's nothing normal about her at all. Not her heritage, and that's the thing. It's like at some point we come to the place where we go, I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to stand out. And that's the scariest thing, because especially when you just want to live, you just want to have a job and drive a certain car, you just want to be regular. And I think the beautiful part about this book is that it combats that completely. There's no such thing as regular. We're each here to do something specific and special, in that it's not special because we all have to do that. So yeah, that's that. So I'm actually tired. It's 1 o'clock. I have to go home. I have to come back out really early. I have to come back to the city. So what we're going to do is we're going to end here. I don't see anybody has any questions. So hopefully you didn't ask the question, but I was just kind of answering it. The water is really pure. How many chapters in what? The book? In this book, there are a lot. There are a lot. Oh, maybe I should explain this. So for the whole month of August, because I'm relaunching book 3, the book that we're reading, I'm relaunching book 3 as an ebook on August 21st. So the reason why I'm doing this Star People Storytime, is to just kind of get people acclimated to the story, get them interested, you know, because I think it's a good story. I wrote it, and I wrote the book that I wanted to read. I wrote the books I wanted to read. I'm writing a series that I wanted to read. That's exactly what happened. So this is my 3rd book, and I'm going to start writing the 4th one in November. So that's why all this is going on. Why am I getting angry faces? I don't understand, but thank you for the hearts. So there are a lot of chapters. I think this book has 42, but we're just doing this throughout the month of August, and we're going to try and fit in as many chapters as we can throughout the month of August. But if you like the book, you can buy it. Support independent conscious media. I'm just saying. And yes, there will be an audiobook at some point. I get it. Lots of people would rather listen to it on their way to work or whatever and what have you. So we'll work through it. But that's it. That's why I'm doing all this. I'm doing meditation in the morning at 11:11. a.m. So you can join me for Stop, Drop, and Meditate at 11:11. And then in the evenings at 11:11 p.m. we do Star People Story Time. Normally it's pajamas and I'm, in my room, comfortable and relaxed and not in my car on Chestnut Street reading a book. But it's good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining me for this. This is a little, impromptu. No, it's not. I had planned that I was going to do it out, but thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. And I will see y'all mañana at 11:11. Remember, 11:11 for Stop, Drop, and Meditate. Okay? And then hopefully sign. I will see you tomorrow night at 11:11 for chapter 5. Okay. So get into it and go to the my Stellar Trilogy series page and catch up with the other videos. Okay. All right. Okay. I love you guys madly. Levian Heil Star people. I'll see you tomorrow.